They are Australia's original pop pioneers who in 1964 worked their way to London aboard a cruise ship and were instantly discovered, recording songs that resonated around the world. And now, 50 years since being named Australians of the Year, a DVD documenting their 3 massively successful television specials has gone to #1 on the ARIA chart. Let's catch up with 75% of the Seekers. Judith, first up, I do worry about you a little bit sometimes. How's your health?
Oh, look, I'm fabulous. Look, I'm capable of the world. I just have to wake up and there I am.
There you go.
How can I possibly be alive still? I mean, here I am.
It's the one time when we read the papers we don't want to see our names in it.
To everything, turn, turn, turn.
Where's Keith? Is he misbehaving? Has he done something wrong? Is there trouble in the camp?
We sent him off on his annual leave.
No, he's actually in London. It's really a shame that he's missing being all together with us, especially with this celebration. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Also incredible, the fact that the DVD celebrates the 50th anniversary of the band being named Australians of the Year.
The interesting thing about when we were honoured as Australians of the Year, it was partly because of the film The Seekers Down Under, because that became, in Eastern Europe, after it was shot and played all around the world, that became the biggest promoter of immigration and tourism into Australia. And we only found out about that ages later, and that's one of the reasons, quite apart from our music and the fame that we had from that, that's another reason why we got that award.
Nobody knows the trouble I see. Nobody knows my sorrow.
Judith, just looking at all these beautiful photos in the DVD and all that, you have not aged a day. I mean, the other blokes have, obviously.
Oh, hey.
Oh, you know how to wound a bloke. Wait till we catch up with you. Well, so I think the fantastic thing, at this time, 50-odd years ago, when we played with the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and everybody in the musical Olympics of the 60s, we were named the top best new group. You know the great thing about today, we're about to be named the top best old group.
Ah, thanks.
All bound for Morningstown, many miles away.
Of course, the signature ingredient throughout the Seekers' incredible catalogue of songs, Judith's voice.
I have been told that there's a uniqueness about my voice, and of course, being with 3 males' voices, that sort of gave us this blend that nobody could have envisaged. You couldn't have auditioned the 4 of us.
No.
Obviously, the Monkeys, they were auditioned. Everybody auditioned.
Manufactured,
but with us, it was just the 4 of us coming together by chance.
And organically, we just made that sound, because this girl here has that amazing voice that is the coat hanger for the 3 blokes. Because we zip her up together in harmonics, if that makes sense to anybody who's not musically orientated.
I feel a little uncomfortable with them talking about the zipping up.
Yeah, I thought that's what he said.
I just threw it in to put a little bit of sizzle into the interview there.
Edit.
Hey there, Georgie girl, swinging down the street so fancy-free.
You have achieved so much during your incredible career. What's left to do when you've done everything?
There is still more in terms of everything that we have in our catalogue that we own and we can control and produce. And I would like to think that we could put together finally our own documentary. That'd be my aim on our behalf.
Well, it's lovely talking to you. Congratulations on the #1. See you later.
Thank you, Richard, and the whole team, everybody out there. Thank you.
Oh, aren't they beautiful people? And that music still sounds, especially that song, Georgie.
Oh, I just want to hug Judith.
I love that dress there.
I love her.
She's such a sweetheart. And that voice, she still sounds 16 years of age, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Just beautiful voice. The Seekers, the legendary television specials DVD is out now, and that is quite the trip down your mum and dad's memory lane. Wonderful.
But they still hold, don't
Oh,
they?
beautiful songs,
Yeah.
beautiful.
It's a
Lovely
great yarn.
music.
It's a
And
great
congratulations to you.
Well done, Dickie. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
How are you? Who are you? Let's have a look. We want that. Welcome to our little story. We've got some lovely clips to show you that I don't think you've seen before. this, we have to use this next clip. It's really a bit more about my life, but I'll deal Keith in here, and he knows when he'll come in. My first group, the Ramblers, 1958, with Peter Bally, Gary Butler. 60 years ago, I can't believe that. We were singing on in Melbourne Tonight and the local TV. Now, this is when Keith joined us. Up the back, the Escorts. You couldn't call the group that these days. Doesn't quite work. So there we are in 1960.
Very good. Yeah.
And we had a great time. Now, I stopped playing footy because my eyes went sideways. But it's amazing how horn-rimmed glasses made you look very intelligent, and you now know that's not quite true. Anyway, armed with a double bass and double vision. Myself and my... Oh, no, I was favourably compared with Buddy Holly. Yeah, Peter Sellers and Superman.
Here we go.
Keith on the right. Keith gets the solo here. I don't know how you got the lead in that.
Yeah.
How did you get the lead in that?
Thank goodness for Brill Cream.
There was one microphone hanging over our heads. One microphone. They don't do it that way these days, believe me. The big voice was Ken Ray standing next to me. The big falsetto, 17 years of age. Always doing his best to make me laugh on national television. I still get the speaking parts though.
There you go.
Well, Ken, who was just 17 when we first auditioned him for the Escorts, and went on to become the fourth member of the original Seekers, 1960.
62, yeah.
I was 62.
Early 62, yeah, we joined. And then he was engaged to a lovely lady whom he decided to marry, and then he decided to leave the group, and that's when Judith joined us at the end of 1962.
You could never manufacture anything that ever happened to the Seekers. We got our blessings from somewhere, and thank goodness, because we're still together as great life friends.
Yeah, and we were very impressed by an American group called the Weavers. Bronnie Gilbert was the lady singer in that. Pete Seeger. We just loved that sound. So that
It was beautiful. So we knew what we were looking for. What happened? I was meant to go and hear two singers in Melbourne. Both jazz singers. One was Judy Jarks. I don't know whether you might remember Judy. And the other one was a young lady by the name of Judith Durham. And I'd met Judy's sister, Beverly, who was actually here with us last night. Judith couldn't come up. Can't travel at the moment, unfortunately. But her sister Beverly was here with us last night. And I'd met Beverly at Channel 9 where I was working, and she said, you should go and listen to my sister sing. And I said, that'd be great. I want to do that. Well, before that could happen, literally 2 days after that conversation, I was sitting at my office desk in an advertising agency by the name of J. Walter Thompson, and this little head poked itself around the corner of my office and said, hello. Hello, I'm Judy Durham. I went, she said, you're Athol Guy, aren't you? And I said, yes. She said, you were going to come and hear me sing. And I said, well, I'm going to do that. And she said, when are you going to do that? And I said, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you come and sing with us tonight? So, cut to the chase. Keith and myself were there. Bruce walked in the door with Judy, now Judith, and we introduced all round. We said, what would you like to sing? Don't worry, no rehearsal. We sort of know the sort of things you do. And we, without rehearsal, I remember singing 2 songs that have never left us. And they came from the Weavers?
From the Weavers, yes. When the Stars Begin to Fall.
The Stars Begin to Fall. And another one which I'll tell you about in a few moments. Yeah. And that bit of magic happened. Nothing has changed, in essence, except from some very fantastic vocal arrangements from Keith over here, which we'll come to when Tom Springfield met up with us. And Tom was the man who took us over the Rubicon, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was pretty much the fifth Seeker. And first of all, wrote some great songs, and second of all, produced them as well. And so he was the man behind our initial recordings of I'll Never Find Another, and so on and so on.
Well, what happened? We met up with Tom. We'd been in England for 6 months and we'd done a lot of television. In fact, we were on a national television show in England 2 days after we arrived because we'd had some help from friends in Australia. Horry Dargy. Anyone remember Horry Dargy? And Horry introduced us to an agency called the Grade Organisation. And just before our boat docked at Southampton, we got a telegram and it said from the organisation, the Grade Group, welcome to the UK. You will be on national television on Tuesday night on the Cliff Mitchell More Today Tonight program. Well, do you think that fazed us? Of course it did. No, well, we stepped up. What did we sing?
We sang With My Swag on My Shoulder and This Train. This Train was our big single at that stage, and and we had there we were, having been in a country that was only a little bit over 11 million people in Australia at that time. We were then appearing on a TV show that was playing to 11 million people in England. It was amazing.
However, Tom Springfield came into our lives, and as much as we were still very busy, came in with a little scrap of paper, which I think, Magpie, you've still got.
I do have it.
Should we auction it tonight?
Ah, yes.
I remember we went into Abbey Road Studios, where the famous Abbey Road, where the Beatles and everybody else. So we passed like ships in the night, but we went in one Saturday morning, and Keith sat down before that though, and this is when the sound didn't change, but it morphed from a folky, bluesy group into that great song, I'll Never Find Another You. And as I keep saying to sound engineers and other people who sometimes get our blend wrong, please go back and play I'll Never Find Another You, because this was the seminal moment. This was the song that took us to where, in so many ways, we've ended up today. That song went to number one February 1965, and as a result of that, we were named in the New Musical Express, the International Poll Winners Awards. The Seekers were named the top best new group. And to put it in context, in the right context, the group that won it the year before was a little group called the Rolling Stones. And the group that won it the year before that was another little start-up from Liverpool called the Beatles. So you had this little Aussie band, and we want to play, Adam, if you wouldn't mind, just put this up.
Here it goes.
Welcome to the annual New Musical Express Poll Winners Concert here at the Empire Pool, Wembley.
The Beatles!
She's in love with me and I feel fine.
The Rolling Stones!
The Seekers.
Thank you very much. We'd like to sing for you now a song that we hope will be nearly as successful as I'll Never Find Another You. That's a song written for us again by Tom Springfield. It was released last Friday. And it's called A World of Our Own. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Close the door, light the light. We're staying home tonight, far away from the bustle and the bright city lights. Let them all fade away. Just leave us alone, and we'll live in a world of our own.
If you want something to change your life, there it is in a nutshell. What an amazing day. Interesting little story about the day is we all passed like ships in the night, again, like at rehearsals. And we were stuck in our dressing room. Our manager was standing outside and John Lennon walked past with a very cheeky grin on his face, walked up to our manager and looked up to him and said, "They're not a bad little band, you know. But they're all here to see us." Well, interestingly enough, 3 weeks later, A World of Our Own knocked Ticket to Ride off the top of the charts. But I have to say they'd been there for a little while, in fairness. So how do you follow up that? Well, we did. We had the Carnival was over at the end of the year.
Yeah, it certainly was a delightful event to have those 3 Tom Springfield songs that absolutely cemented our career in the UK and overseas as well. In fact, I'll Never Find Another You got to number 3 in America. Not a lot of people know that was in the top 3 there, and World of Our Own was in the top 20. Carnival is Over didn't make it in America, but certainly we made up for it later on with another song, which will remain nameless.
Well, we'd better name it, I think, probably.
No,
we'll save it till the end. Well, interestingly enough, we had another 2 big hits in the next 66, and in fact, the Seekers, for a Christmas single, you might remember how we picked this, but it happens to be one of the first songs we sang on that original night. That was on the Weavers album, wasn't it? This song?
No, it was on it came from a Linelighters album, and it was a song that we were aware of before we actually left for England, and it had a kind of a different tempo, and I kind of Seekerized it, made it our own.
You did. You're cunning dog.
That's right. We had the banjo and everything like that, and I'm talking about Morningtown Ride. You see,
this gentleman over here is just the genius in the group for working out how all our harmonics should work, and sits up half the night with a nice bottle of red sometimes, like this. Just figuring out the little nuances, and if you listen to a lot of our songs, you know, the opening lick on a 12-string guitar, which now is about as pertinent to the sound of the group as the lyrics in the songs. Rockin', rollin', riding, out along the lake, all down for Morningtown, many miles away. Rockin', rollin', riding, a little bit louder. Out along the lake, all bound for Morningtown, many miles away. Rockin', rollin', riding, out along the lake, all bound for Morningtown, many miles away. Well, congratulations. You are now formally inducted as the National Library Division here in Canberra of the Seekers Tribute Band. Thank you. Beautifully sung. Thank you. Irresistible. Well, Morningtown Ride was number 1 Christmas 66 and stays with us for all those reasons. Wouldn't have been a concert that we hadn't sung it at. Now, that was great, and other hits came. 68, of course, which we're celebrating here now with the library changing times. Boy, it were the 60s changing times in so many ways. And we were over there in the musical Olympics of the 60s, you know, winning our share of gold medals, if you like, in so many ways. But July 68, 50 years ago, we went our separate ways for a whole variety of reasons, but we did have a wonderful final concert which was televised over in the UK. I think there were 10 million viewers just in the UK. And we're hoping actually maybe the ABC, anybody here from the ABC? We'd like them to replay the Farewell to Seekers. We'll make a few phone calls ourselves, maybe in the middle of the year. Anyway, the point is, at that time, we had to say goodbye. Now, what happened after that is, and Keith will remember this well, because I used to ring him about every 3 months saying, I've had another phone call with someone wanting to put the group back together again. And I don't mean as a performing group, but they wanted Seekers songs for special occasions, international expos, Australia Day functions, you name it, the bicentenary. And 3 times, and we want to pay a little tribute here in these clips, 3 times Judith couldn't make it. Judith was overseas touring with her husband Ron, playing the jazz clubs, I think, around Europe. Keith was living in the UK at that time. Bruce was, I think, in Nashville writing. However, Keith and Bruce and I did manage on 3 different occasions for some very special international functions to find a great voice, 3 wonderful female Australian singers who you're going to see here in these clips. Louisa whistling in the 70s, and we actually did 2 albums with Louisa, great songs.
Yeah, they were great. And there was a very successful single that Bruce wrote called Sparrow Song. Do you recall that one? Yeah, that was a good, big hit.
No, it was wonderful. We had a great time, but it was not a seamless performing Seekers as such. But I just make the point that this is our tribute to the 3 girls who did step up to the plate and joined us at some fantastic occasions. Julie at Bicentenary in '88, and then Karen Knowles came in and took over for a big expo in Osaka, and a couple of other, the Carols by Candlelight. We did 3 or 4 huge Carols by Candlelight. But enjoy the 3 girls that stepped up to the plate in the 25 years before we actually did get back together again. Thanks, Adam.
I seek a land of far horizon, of gentle winds and summer rain, where the children are not hungry and they put an end to pain. And I will sing a song of freedom in the arms of a golden tree. Is there such a place on earth for a tiny bird like me? Fly, little sparrow, high above the clouds, looking for a place to lay your weary body down. Yes, and fly on, little sparrow, northward to the sun. Wonder if you'll ever find yourself a home. As Jesus in his manger lay, his mother Mary holding him, the stable filled with the light of love, the lone bright star shone over there, and all around the world tonight, as we gather to rejoice in him, may your light of faith and hope burn bright, your own bright star that shines within. Turn your eyes to the starry skies, you can see it from above, your own bright star on this night of night. And
singing, Lord, kumbaya. Oh, Lord, kumbaya. Someone's crying, Lord, kumbaya. Someone's crying, Lord, kumbaya. Someone's crying, Lord, kumbaya. Oh, Lord, kumbaya. Someone's praying, Lord, kumbaya. Someone's praying, Lord, kumbaya. Someone's praying, Lord, kumbaya. Oh, Lord, kumbaya. Kumbaya, my Lord, kumbaya. Kumbaya, my Lord, kumbaya. Kumbaya, my Lord, kumbaya. Oh, Lord, kumbaya. Oh, Lord,
Yeah, so there you go. Kept the Seekers brand out there in many, many ways, and we're very grateful that the three girls were able to step up to the plate. We often reflect, and I know Keith will have an opinion on this, 50 odd years, we've had our 50th. The highlight for you, did you ever think we'd be sitting here talking in the current tense, because we do have something else to show you, which will let you know about our aspirations, because we still have some.
Oh, no idea. In 1968, when this wonderful establishment was opening its doors, I was in London. The rest of the group had left to come back to Australia, but I stayed on because my family was there, and I had absolutely no idea what was going to happen. So 50 years on, my goodness gracious, who could tell? So there we are, you know. Yeah. Now,
it's about as simple as that, you know, where there's no complex answer. Music is in everybody's lives, and fortunately we had the fairy dust sprinkle on us and our music. And as I say, we still have ambitions for the group. Judith couldn't come up this week, unfortunately. But we want to play you a clip now, because this, I think, highlights in a way what we'd like to do next, I think. That be right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, I think this is absolutely our next step in the Seekers saga.
Thank you, Adam.
I hear the music of the world turning, can't you hear the sound of the world turning? If you stop and listen, you can hear things grow, and you can have music wherever you go. I hear the music of the world turning. There are some folks laughing, there are some folks crying. Kids playing in the street sound sweeter than a choir. All you gotta do is listen to hear the music of the world turning. Can't you hear the sweet sound of the world turning? If you stop, look and listen, you can almost hear things grow. You can have music wherever you go. I hear a symphony of traffic in the city. There are horns blowing, there are heels clicking. Hear those ash cans rattling as the sun begins to rise. All you gotta do is listen to hear the music of the world turning. Can't you hear the sweet sound of the world turning? If you stop, look and listen, you can almost hear things grow. You can have music wherever you go. Bring Clyde's special song for each and every day. It's got the rain, the dancing and the thunder clapping now. Don't just ignore it, there's a concert all around you. All you gotta do is listen to hear the music of the world turning. Can't you hear the sweet sound of the world turning? If you stop, look and listen, you can almost hear things grow. You can have music wherever you go. You can have music wherever you go.
Well, here we are in 2018.
Yeah.
And the story hasn't finished by a long way. So what's cooking now?
Well, what's cooking? Myself, Athol Guy and Keith Pock have been recording a bunch of songs over the last 9 months or so with a view to putting together a concert format. It's basically the story of how we began as an all-male group, the songs that we grew up with, songs that inspired us along the way, and songs that we wished we recorded. So, not knowing how it would turn out, we started recording these songs with our record producer Michael Cristiano, who becomes the fourth voice, like the original guy Ken Ray, and Michael has a great vocal range. He's a high tenor, but he also happens to be a master guitarist as well and great record producer. So we now have the basis of a 90-minute concert piece where it's basically essentially the story of the Seekers, how it happened, the great songwriters we met along the way, personal stories of our involvement with them. I think people that would see the show would literally know every single song that we present on stage.
This is on the way now. This is definitely a work in progress, right?
Yeah. We're hopeful that it'll see the light of day later this year, if not certainly early next year. We will go into rehearsals. We'll work out how we're going to present it, how we're going to promote it. I think it'll take on a life of its own, and I think if we do it correctly, it will work extremely well. There's a lot of musical integrity there. There's a very good musical reason for doing it, and also from an historical perspective, because people don't know this story. It wasn't presented particularly well in the Seekers musical that happened recently, which didn't, in my opinion, and the others, present the real story of where this group emanated from.
I think this must be the problem the world over when you get somebody who's well known and somebody else decides to take on their life story and they're like, but that's not me, that didn't happen.
Well, that's unfortunately the way it was, you know, and anyway, it did what it did, and people enjoyed it because of the songs.
Voices singing far away. We're talking Canberra, 2CC. We're talking Canberra.
A 2CC podcast.
In the early 60s, a jazz singer hooked up with a trio of blokes in a nightclub in Melbourne. A couple of years later, they became one of Australia's biggest bands, sweethearts to us all. A couple of guitarists, a double bass player wearing black horn-rimmed glasses, a singer with the sweetest voice, and they were, and still are, the Seekers and Judith Durham. Good afternoon, Judith.
Hello. It's lovely to be able to speak to you, Richard. Fantastic.
How long has it been? How long has it been?
Look, I can't imagine, but you're so beautiful, and I think you're so many times, and it's met you, of course, and I love
Yep.
you. So it's just great to be able to celebrate the release of something so special.
It is special. It's the Seekers, the legendary television specials with you and the three lads looking resplendent. When you did these TV specials, were you aware of how big you were?
Well, we toured the world for the very first time, and we came back and we filmed the first of these specials, which was just done in black and white, actually. And then we were still sort of top of the pops. We knocked the Beatles off the top and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So we then filmed the one that's number 2 in these specials, which is, of course, the Seekers going all around Australia, picking on special places of note. And it became really, really significant. It's just so many people watched it. So in the end, we did 3 specials over 3 years, and it's absolutely incredible to have this real beautiful collection now that everybody will be able to relive these moments.
Did you ever shake your head, Judith Durham, and say, what's going on here? We can't do anything wrong?
Oh, look, I was shaking my head all the time, Richard. I couldn't. All I knew was that I never had anything to wear, and I was making all my own clothes and stuff, thinking I was too fat.
Yes.
And I just couldn't keep up with anything, because all of a sudden, when we went to number 1 with I'll Never Find Another You, all of a sudden the phone was ringing from all around the world, where we were in the EMI record company rooms and taking calls from absolutely all around. Like suddenly we were international.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we were actually pop stars, not just folk music. We were actually number 1 top of the pops. And we were playing top of the pops, you know, going up to the studio in Manchester. We're number 1 top of the pops. And da, 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 da. It was just on the DVD, the final 4 beautifully filmed songs are us on podium singing 4 beautiful recordings. It's lovely for me to watch these DVDs. And of course, The Carnival Is Over is one of those films.
That's it.
It's really.
And it hasn't ended either, Judith Durham. The carnival has come back so many times. How many times?
Oh, look, we never give up, do we?
No, you don't.
Had our 50th. We just had our 50th anniversary. We thought we were calling it a day. Well, first of all, when I decided I'd better go and do something different before I'd probably go home and have babies and get married.
Yeah.
So that was the first it should be one. I'm awfully sorry, but I've just got to do something on my own before, you know, I'm too old to whatever.
Yeah.
And then 25 years after the Seekers, we then sort of had our silver jubilee, thinking, oh, that's probably calling it a day. And then the 50th, I mean, if we're still around in 10 years' time, watch out. But
Yeah.
at the moment, no, we really think this is it now, you know.
And the bottom line, Judith Durham, is always the music. Did you have the right to choose your own songs?
Look, we had no idea we were going to be pop stars. It was Eddie Jarrett who decided he could manage us. We've been on television a lot in the UK, but nobody sort of thought that we would ever have pop songs. It was Tom Springfield who had a vision for the song that he'd written called I'll Never Find Another You.
Yeah.
And he played it to me over the phone. And because I had no idea about what it might be a potential pop song, I was a sort of a traditional jazz singer. I was actually even thinking of doing opera. The boys and I were doing sort of skiffle, folk and all that sort of stuff. None of us dreamed we were going to become international pop stars overnight. So Tom Springfield's song, of course Tom was the brother of Dusty Springfield at the time, he had this lovely song, but nobody in a million years thought it would go to number 1 around the world.
Yeah.
So I was the last one to ever think of being what they call, you know, pop princess or something. It was so unlikely.
Yeah, but the whole thing was that you resonated then, you still resonate now. You know, we were together in the tour of Queensland and you got the awards from the Queen. You had to go over there as individual awards. You got those medals. And I reckon if you got back together today, Judith Durham, you and those 3 funny lads, I reckon you'd do it all over again.
Look, wouldn't it be wonderful if the music industry allowed for that? You know, it's a very different climate now. Not that I'd be the first one. Of course, we have recently recorded a couple of new tracks, which you know, we had fabulous production on it and everything. So all the fans that were all around the world, they've been so loyal and they just supported so much. But, you know, this day and age, I mean, we'd probably have to ring to win, Australian Idol or something, just a whole
Yeah.
Luckily, we've got a great Ambition Records that's decided to put these DVDs out.
Yeah.
And they are keeping us proud with this fabulous packaging. It's amazing.
It's crazy. As long as I've known you and the guys, I mean, Athol and Keith and Bruce, you have not changed. You've still kept, a normal life, and you still are touchable and you're approachable. You've not.
Look, we are so blessed that we never had to change. We were just ourselves. We're always so natural. Our fans relate to us so beautifully. So we're very, very lucky. And I'm just thinking, Keith, people could meet him actually because he's coming to Songland.
Yes, that's right.
You might be around yourself.
I'll go and say hello to him and have to shout very loudly because he's probably deaf by now, but we'll give it a shot.
I don't think so. Keith's the sharp back and he's just as beautiful looking too.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Mother's Day on Sunday.
Sunday, that's it. Get it autographed. It's The Seekers, and as Judith Durham said, the legendary television specials. Keith Potker in store with Frog at Songland on Saturday. You can get it autographed. It's a great little package, great little book. There you are in front of a Qantas VJet 707, looking resplendent. It includes the 3 bonus television specials and a collector's photo booklet. Judith Durham, always a delight. We've been friends before. We'll be friends for life. I do appreciate your time this afternoon. Let's stay in touch, and I hope you've been well.
Oh, I love you so much. Thanks very much, Richard.
Athol Guy, bass player with The Seekers, and he's our very special guest on our Talking Point this morning. Now, during the 60s, 65, 66, 67 in particular, The Seekers were so big, they hosted their own music specials shows. They've been hard to get for a long time, but now they are all together on the DVD set. Athol, welcome back to the program.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Good morning too, and pleasure to be with you.
This has been a long time coming, the DVD release of these legendary shows, because some of them are the most watched programs in Australian history.
Well, they rated up into the 70s, which is sort of unheard of. Now, admittedly, we didn't have the number of TV stations or, on-air opportunities video-wise that are around now, but it was phenomenal. I mean, those sort of ratings were absolutely incredible.
Now, I know that the gospel songs were a really important part of the folk scene at that time before Dylan kind of revolutionised it.
I think we all came together musically with our own sense of, the spiritual nature of music and the effect that, music can have in your life and lives. As we've seen multitudinous times over the years, how our music has been, music generally, but our music in particular has been so helpful in times of distress and family discomfort, quite apart from the joy that it obviously brings as well, through a lot of the great songs. So we sort of cover the human emotional spectrum.
There was At Home with the Seekers in 66. In 67, the Seekers Down Under. Now, more money spent on it because it's made in colour and you travel around the country. You start out on the Gold Coast and you have a luau.
Yeah. Yeah, the luau around the pool, and that was a real party day. Well, we wrote Myra, we wrote the song Myra, and we pinched it. I think we pinched a bit of the melody off one of the old American groups. We won't tell them that. We visited Tonga on an island cruise, and myself and the boys wrote a song for Myra, and we had to tame it down a little bit because Myra was, let's just say, she was a good time girl. And one verse we had to chop out when we asked Judith to sort of sing it with us. We didn't think that would have gone down all that well. She probably wouldn't have minded. It wasn't all that bad, but it just seemed a little risque. Anyway, so we turned it into that great, sort of Polynesian style, rhythmic quantity, and it goes down so well on stage. And Judith, does a little dance step to it. That's a real fun song.
67 was a huge year for you in America then, because as we see in this particular special, The Seekers Down Under, you are given your gold record, and that was when a gold record really meant something, because it meant you had to sell 1 million copies, which you did, of Georgie Girl, which got to number 1 on Cashbox, number 2 on Billboard, I think, and was your biggest hit. in America. Where are those gold records today, Athol?
They're in safekeeping. I have mine in a small exhibition up at Mount Macedon at the Mount Macedon Tea Rooms up at the Cross. It's where our memorial cross is on the top of Mount Macedon, Victoria's second most important war memorial. And there's a lovely little alcove up there, and we get gold coin donations for the maintenance of the area up there. So some of my memorabilia is there, a lot of the gold records. And I've kept a few at home. I keep saying to my daughter, you've got to tell me what bits here you need to keep. Otherwise, I've either got to have them off in an exhibition with all the rest of the gang. We've often talked about a travelling exhibition of the memorabilia because it is quite fascinating when you see all the bits and pieces together. There's a hell of a story there.
Another part of the special is when you go to the Opera House. Now, the Opera House is still actually being built. Still another, 6 years away from being completed and opened by the Queen. Yep. Was it ironic or deliberate that you chose to sing Someday, One Day at the Opera House? Will this ever be completed?
I think it was deliberate. And when you looked at it, oh, gee whiz, hey, what a massive structure that was turning out to be. And how fantastic for us to have that clip and to be able to gone out around there and shot it to the song. And I don't think there was anything savage in that. I think the song seemed most appropriate.
And then the World of the Seekers, which came along in '68.
Yeah, shot beautifully on 35mm film, which of course has been transferred, to digital now, obviously. But I still have the original 35mm film in 3 cans. Yeah, historic stuff. It's actually in the boot of my car today, but it's only because it's in transit to storage again.
Wow. Again, it is in colour. And it consists of you telling the story of the group, an origin story, if you will, with flashbacks to the history of the group, starting at the fabulous Treble Clef Coffee House, which is where you started playing.
It started as a little Monday night filler for a musician in Melbourne called Tommy Davidson, who was a very well-known musician. And once we'd started the set, and the Seekers were originally a four-boy group, which a lot of people sort of haven't acknowledged yet. But we're going to put a few bits and pieces together for what might be a documentary and include due reference to the 4 boys who sort of kicked the thing along.
Okay. Did anyone ever come to the Seekers and say, "We want to put you in a big screen adventure"?
Well, look, it would have been nice. Maybe there was not enough sort of edginess or controversy or whatever about the group, as much as it was so hugely popular. And I mean, maybe we'd sort of done everything anyway, or maybe even slightly ahead of the game with our own specials. I think. Television's been part of our lives forever, especially with all the reunions. I mean, we've now got the 25-year reunion concert on video, and we're hoping to put the 50th together. We've actually got all the material for the 50th, which we shot all around the concert circuit, and we were talking about that yesterday actually. So that might be one of those other products towards the end of the year. Hopefully come out. We know through Facebook and our website that our lovely Rusted On fans out there would dearly love to have a video of the 50th. So we're seriously looking at that at the moment. It's so fantastic to have all this material at our fingertips digitally, all downloaded and set aside for use in an appropriate manner. The response to this right up front for the trilogy, which really is the whole Seekers heart and soul, isn't it, really? Yes. As much as you haven't got the reunion stuff in there, but that doesn't matter. This is the heart and soul of what happened to a little group of Aussies who made the big time without even thinking about it. As I said, you couldn't manufacture anything that ever happened to us. We certainly got a touch of cosmic magic along the way. I'm very grateful for it. Nice heritage for us to respect, and our fans are all still out there, which is lovely. We're an interesting crew, We are the north, south, east and west as people. We are so different. It is a bit of a miracle in that sense that we just mesh together musically, but on top of that, we've had such a great life together as friends. And I'm often asked about that. Oh, come on, you can't be, can't be that close. And I'm saying, well, no, here's, and this is with very tongue-in-cheek what I'm about to say. And I've often said, no, what happens is when there's a bit of tension, one of us will leave the room so the other three can give them a good bagging, and then it's somebody else's turn next.
So the question now is this it for the Seekers? Will you ever play in concert together again?
Oh, look, for us, no concerts. I can say that we got to a point when we finished the 50th in New Zealand, actually. It was the last port of call, and we all sort of said to each other, basically, without really saying it couldn't get any better than this. You could not have a national tour like that off the back of, a few problems along the way, to complete it and to have sold every seat, and certainly 2 sellouts at the Royal Albert Hall, which was just amazing. And I think you have to know when it really is time in every sense, because... Yeah, we're getting on a bit, but by the same token, today's technology and the internet gives us this terrific chance to stay in touch with all our friends and fans around the world and find for them the sort of merchandise, the missing bits and pieces, without overdoing the retail side of things. But we have got a lot of material that we know we could put together. As I said before, the video of the 50th concerts would be fantastic if we can get that put together. We know that the fans want it. So we actually use the website as a bit of a research tool, to let them know what's happening.
Great. This is just a part of the Seekers story, obviously, these DVDs. Yeah. The second part of your career went much, much longer than the first.
Exactly. We've been together since 92. Basically, and a lot of fun. The moment you sort of, you hang your gear up and put the bass away, the phone rings again, which is a very, very, very nice thing to be wanted.
I'm sure a lot of musicians would love to have that problem. As always, Athol, you are incredibly generous with your time and your memories of such a remarkable time in Australian music history. The very best of luck with the DVD release. I really appreciate your time and thank you so much.
No, lovely to chat with you again, Rod. All the very best, and to everybody out there.